Welcome back, friends, to this midweek edition of the parables of the kingdom. The seven parables of the kingdom, which are found in the Gospel of St. Matthew, the 13th chapter, or the kingdom chapter of the New Testament. These parables all are progressive as far as the church age is concerned. The first one is of a sower that went forth to sow on four different kinds of soils. That it represents Jesus Christ sowing the gospel into the world. The second parable was of the tares and wheat. The sower, which is Christ, sowing the word, and then the adversary coming along and sowing tares, sowing discord and false doctrine. The third then was of the unnatural growth of the church, figured in the mustard seed, becoming a tree instead of a plant, a stalk, which it normally would do. That means that the church is going to grow phenomenally, but as it grows bigger, it will attract more of the world. The birds of the air will come and live in its branches. Those represent those same birds that ate the seed that fell by the wayside in the first parable of the sower. The bigger the church becomes, the more attractive it becomes to mammon and to the world and to politicians and to socialites and that sort of thing. The fourth parable is of the corruption, the growing corruption in the church, represented by the leaven. Leaven corrupts, leaven puffs up. And so we see today the false doctrine growing in our midst in the church today. The fifth is of the treasure in the field, and that is representing the Lord. This is my analysis of it. This is representing the Lord seeking the lost in the world. And the sixth is the pearl of great price, which was discovered. That is Christ finding the church in the world. Those six parables build up to the end time. The end time is represented in this last parable of the dragnet and fishes. Not the kind of net dropped from a boat, but one cast into the sea from the shore. We've seen pictures of men at the shore casting out the net. That's a dragnet. And it's not designed to catch a school of fish as on the sea, but to catch whatever happens to be there in reach of the net and to bring it to shore. That net is not cast into a school of fish, but captures every kind of fish, and clean and unclean, along with all other refuge of the sea. And of course, that's the difference between a regular net and a drag net. The example here is that we cannot expect a pure church until the end time. And that pure church in the end will be represented in the vessels that we're going to talk about. This parable is closely related to the previous parable of the wheat and tares, but there are some major differences. This one is a concluding parable of the end time. Let's review that parable from the text, Matthew 13, verses 47 through 52, and then we'll discuss it in greater detail. Beginning at the 47th verse of the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 13. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a net that was cast into the sea and gathered of every kind, which when it was full, they brought to shore, and sat down, and gathered the good into vessels, but cast the bad away. So shall it be at the end of the world. The angel shall come forth and sever the wicked from among the just, and shall cast them into the furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Jesus saith unto them, Have you understood all these things? They say unto him, Yes, Lord. Then said he unto them, Therefore every scribe which is instructed unto the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man that is an householder, which bringeth forth out of his treasure things new and old. End of the reading of the gospel. The kingdom of heaven, the church made up of true believers as well as pretenders. The net represents a dragnet that catches all kinds of fish. The sea is the world. The full net is the completion of this church age. Drawing it to shore represents the end of time. And the angel sitting down, finishing the evangelical efforts of the church. Sinners are drawn by the gospel and are saved, thereby dying to sin, because all that come to the shore will die, good and old and bad. Others die the second death after judgment. Gather the good into vessels, place of safety, but the bad are cast away. Angels separate the good from the bad cast into a furnace of fire. Every scribe which is instructed into the kingdom of heaven is likened to a man that is a householder, which bringeth forth out of his treasure things new and old. The old law, the prophets, and then the fullness of the gospel, which is the new. The householder is the ministers that hold the true church together at the end time. And in doing so, they teach the right doctrine. They teach both the old law, the old laws of the Old Testament, and the prophecies of the Old Testament as pointing to the new, which is the gospel of Jesus Christ and the fulfillment of the law. To be honest, nothing changed from the beginning. It was prophesied that Christ would come and do these things. Abraham believed in the promise made by Christ and looked forward to his day, and Jesus says he saw it. Those who die in Christ are not truly dead. They are alive. Moses and Elijah appeared with Jesus on the Mount of Transfiguration. They were not dead. So we need to look forward to these things. This is the end time. The dragnet is the concluding chapter of this age when time will be no more, and the righteous will be brought out of the turmoil of the net, and the unjust will be cast aside and cast into a furnace of fire. Now that's all of the kingdom parables in Matthew chapter 13. We will go to other parables beginning in the middle part of next week, which usually are a little more detailed than these. And we'll be talking about not only the parables in the New Testament, but eventually we'll be getting into the Old Testament parables as well. I hope this is interesting to you. God bless you, and we will catch you next week, God willing. Goodbye.